When people think about the 1970s, they think about huge hits, famous bands, and songs played on the radio again and again. But the truth is, the decade was much deeper than that. For every song that topped the charts, dozens of great tracks were quietly released and then forgotten. These songs didn't fail because they were bad. Many failed because they were too strange, too emotional, or simply released at the wrong time. Some came from artists who never became famous. Others came from well-known musicians experimenting outside the mainstream. This list is not about chart success. It's about feeling, risk, and creativity. These are songs that lived in the shadows, while bigger hits took the spotlight. Listening to them today feels like opening a secret door into the past. And once you hear them, it's hard to believe they were ever ignored. Nick Drake. Things Behind the Sun. Nick Drake never saw fame during his lifetime. In the early 1970s, his music barely sold, and his voice was almost invisible in the noisy rock world. Things Behind the Sun is quiet, slow, and deeply personal. There are no big hooks or flashy solos. Instead, the song feels like a private conversation. Drake sings with sadness, but also honesty. The lyrics feel like advice from someone who understands pain, but still wants you to survive it. At the time, this kind of emotional openness made people uncomfortable. Today, it feels brave. The song slowly pulls you in, line by line. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits patiently. That's why many people missed it in the 1970s. But once you hear it now, it stays with you long after the final note fades away. Tim Buckley. Song to the Siren. Tim Buckley was never easy to label. He mixed folk, jazz, and experimental sounds in ways that confused record labels and radio stations. Song to the Siren is one of his most emotional recordings. The song is simmus, pull on the surface, but incredibly powerful underneath. Buckley's voice rises and falls like waves, full of longing and heartbreak. There's a feeling of vulnerability that makes the listener feel almost intrusive, like you're hearing something too personal. In the 1970s, this song didn't fit the loud, confident image of rock stars. It was too fragile, too honest. That's why it slipped through the cracks. Today, it sounds timeless. It doesn't belong to one decade. It belongs to anyone who has ever loved someone and felt powerless because of it. Big Star. Kangaroo. Big Star is now considered legendary, but during the 1970s, almost no one heard them. Kangaroo is one of their darkest songs. It's slow, haunting, and filled with strange textures. The guitars sound distant, like they're echoing through an empty room. The lyrics feel broken and confused, matching the band's own struggles at the time. Big Star suffered from bad promotion and label problems, not lack of talent. This song was too depressing for radio and too quiet for rock fans looking for energy, but that's exactly what makes it special. Kangaroo feels like loneliness put into sound. It's not trying to impress you, it's trying to tell the truth. And sometimes, the truth doesn't come with a catchy chorus. Judy Sill. The Kiss. Judy Sill lived a painful life, and her music reflected that pain in a beautiful way. The Kiss is short, gentle, and deeply emotional. It mixes folk music with almost spiritual themes. Her voice is soft, but every word feels heavy. In the 1970s, her songs were too complex and personal for mainstream success. She didn't fit the image of a star. She wrote about love, guilt, and redemption in a way that felt almost sacred. The Kiss sounds like a confession whispered late at night. It doesn't explain itself, it just exists. Many listeners back then didn't know what to do with it. Today, it feels ahead of its time. It's a reminder that some of the most powerful songs don't shout. They quietly break your heart. Rodriguez. Cause. For decades, Rodriguez didn't even know people were listening to his music. Cause is one of his most emotional tracks from the early 1970s. The song is simple, almost bare, just a voice, a melody, and raw emotion. Rodriguez sings about regret and heartbreak with no filters. There's no anger, just sadness and acceptance. In the United States, the song went nowhere. But years later, it became beloved in other parts of the world. At the time, it was probably too honest and too slow for radio. But that honesty is what makes it unforgettable today. Cause feels like reading a personal letter that was never meant for you, yet somehow explains your own feelings perfectly. Can. Paper House. Not all hidden songs are quiet. Some were simply too strange. Can, a German band, pushed music into new territory during the early 1970s. Paper House is hypnotic, unpredictable, and intense. The song builds slowly, repeating rhythms until they become almost trance-like. The vocals feel more like emotions than words. For many listeners back then, it was confusing. It didn't sound like rock, pop, or anything familiar. Radio stations didn't. To know where to place it. But Paper House influenced countless artists who came later. It showed that music didn't need clear rules to be powerful. Today, it sounds fresh and daring. It's a reminder that some of the best songs are the ones that refuse to behave. Gene Clark. Strength of Strings. Gene Clark is often remembered only as a former member of the Byrds, but his solo work was rich and emotional. Strength of Strings blends folk with subtle orchestration. The song feels reflective, almost like looking back on a life full of mistakes and lessons. Clark's voice carries both sadness and wisdom. In the 1970s, he struggled with personal problems and poor promotion. This song never reached a wide audience, but it deserved to. The lyrics talk about time, regret, and understanding yourself. It's not dramatic, it's thoughtful. Listening to it feels like sitting with someone older and wiser, hearing truths they learned the hard way. It's quiet music for quiet moments. Sandy Denny. Who knows where the time goes? Sandy Denny had one of the most beautiful voices of the decade, yet many people missed her solo work. Who knows where the time goes? Feels gentle and timeless. The song is about change, aging, and letting go. Denny sings with calm acceptance, not fear. In a decade full of loud statements and big personalities, this song was easy to overlook. But its power comes from simplicity. There's no rush, no pressure, just honesty. The melody flows like time itself, slow and unstoppable. Listening today, the song feels almost comforting. It reminds you that everything passes, both the good and the bad. And sometimes, that's okay. Love. You Set the Scene. Love's final album was released in 1970 and quickly forgotten. You Set the Scene is a beautiful ending to a band that never got the recognition it deserved. The song changes mood several times, moving from sadness to hope. Arthur Lee's lyrics feel reflective, as if he knew this was the end of something important. At over 6 minutes long, it wasn't radio-friendly. But it didn't need to be. It feels like a farewell letter. The 1970s moved on quickly, and this song was left behind. Today, it sounds like a hidden treasure. It captures the feeling of standing at a crossroads, unsure of what comes next. The Zombies. A Rose for Emily. Although recorded earlier, A Rose for Emily found new listeners in the 1970s but never became a hit. The song tells a quiet, sad story of loneliness. There's no anger, just observation. The piano melody is gentle, almost fragile. In a decade full of bold sounds, this song felt too small. But that's why it works. It doesn't try to impress. It tells a story many people recognize but rarely talk about. The sadness is subtle, not dramatic. It's the kind of song that grows stronger with age. The more you listen, the more it hurts, in a beautiful way. Graz. Graham Parsons, In My Hour of Darkness. Graham Parsons helped shape country rock, but his solo work often went unnoticed. In My Hour of Darkness feels like a spiritual goodbye. Recorded near the end of his life, the song sounds peaceful and sad at the same time. The harmonies are soft, almost like a prayer. In the 1970s, it didn't fit cleanly into any genre. It was too country for rock fans and too rock for country fans. But today, it feels honest and human. The song speaks about friendship, loss, and forgiveness. It feels like Parsons knew he wouldn't be around long. That knowledge gives the song extra weight. These hidden songs from the 1970s remind us that great music doesn't always find its audience right away. Sometimes it takes decades. These tracks survived because they were honest, brave, and different. They weren't made to chase trends. They were made because the artists needed to say something. Listening to them now feels special, like discovering a secret history. They show a softer, riskier side of the decade we thought we already knew. And once you hear them, they change how you hear the 1970s forever.